Hi, and welcome back to Normal. I'm your host, Jeff Simone, and with me today are two brave people, parents from the Burlington School District, Adrian Simeone E. and David Hannafin. First of all, welcome and thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.
Could you move that mic a little closer to you? I want to make sure we get plenty of good audio. My throat's closing up. Sorry about this, folks. Happens. This is a podcast. We're not super professional. All right. So if you could put your headphones on, I'm going to play a little bit of some audio. And hopefully I can get this queued up.
My name is David Hannafin. I spoke last week, and I mentioned I have kids in elementary school, middle school, high school, and I had met on a number of occasions with people in the schools. I met with Dr. Visconti and Chen last year. We talked about that, and the point I was making last week is that this wasn't an oversight. We had covered this. We had spoken about it in detail. I'm not quite sure what the woman was getting at, but she kept bringing up religion. And the point that I had made on a number of meetings, and the one that I had made with a few people last year, was that this whole thing, and this woman that was on the TV earlier was talking about the LGBTQ community and the marginalization and everything else. And I had submitted at one point to the middle school that it seems to me like the biggest bully organization within the middle school is that LGBTQIA+ organization. And if you go into the school, there are flags flying everywhere. There are banners. Every door has a sticker on it that says LGBTQ safe zone. So the language that the people on the left typically use is it's triggering. I'm triggered. It's offensive. If I saw a cross, that'd be offensive. People keep bringing that up. Well, the thing that I had mentioned to people last year was that just stop. It doesn't belong in schools. Kids go to school to learn history, reading, writing, arithmetic. Teach them the basics and then send them home. That's our job. So this woman was saying that.
Well said.
Thank you.
Well said. I want to thank you. First of all, it takes a lot to get in front of people, right? Speak publicly for something you are passionate about, care about, which is our children. So you're both in the Burlington School District, right? Your kids go to Burlington School in middle school?
Correct. I have kids in high school.
Kids in high school, middle school. As well. Okay. So my daughter's in middle school as well. Lucky enough, I send her to Catholic school. So this stuff doesn't come up. I'm well aware of it. It's part of the reason I send her to Catholic school.
She at St. Charles? Or?
No. But this stuff doesn't exist, right? So as you said in the clip, they should be learning reading, writing, arithmetic, all the good old stuff. So this is being pushed. So before we get to the guts of all this detail, I'll start with either one of you if you want to kick it off. So when did this come about? So this video circulated. It was online, got millions of hits all over the country. Survey comes out, right? And it's sent. How does this walk me through this? Adrian, can you walk me through how the survey takes place? And I mean literally, like, is it a piece of paper? Is it online? What happens with this? And or give me some more background.
So from what I understand, the survey started in 2012, and they were running it every other year. And when they first were doing it was on paper. And then a couple of years ago, that Leahy paid a big bunch of money so that they could have it digitized and do it on the computer. So the survey gets sent to every student's email address.
Okay, so it's an emailed survey. It's from the school district or from the school, or is it?
The school was contracting with JSI to do all the mechanics of.
What's JSI?
JSI is John Snow Inc., which is a consulting group for a bunch of
Okay, so they get paid.
Yeah.
So they're a consulting group that gets paid by Burlington taxpayers, or maybe the state.
They got grants from Leahy. So technically Burlington's not paying for it, but it's kind of confusing why the superintendent is really invested in making sure the survey happens.
Okay. Maybe we'll put a pin in that for a second. Okay, so the survey goes out over email, and it's sent to all the students, or you can opt out in advance.
That was part of the issue, is that even for parents, I opted my son out. So they had a form that went through Parent Square. So Parent Square is the app that a lot of schools use to send communication to families. And you get inundated with so many things on there. So if you have kids elementary, middle school, high school, you're getting bombarded with stuff. So I felt really lucky that I saw the opt-out opportunity. But because when you look at it, you don't really know what it's about. It cuts off the heading.
Do they use vague language?
Well, it was just the title was so long, you'd have to really click on it and read into it to understand. I mean, like when it was like signing up to get a yearbook, it was like urgent response required for the yearbook. But here's this sexually explicit survey. It's like totally vague, and like so many people missed it. So that was your one and done opportunity to opt out of it. So when they say about, oh, well, people didn't opt out, I don't care if they didn't opt out because they didn't really get a good chance to do that. So then the school sent the survey to every student regardless of whether or not they opted out. And so in the investigation afterwards, they revealed that they didn't have a way to not send it to students who were opted out. So that's a problem.
Well, so they lied. I'll say it. You don't have to say it. They lied.
And it was done as an in-class assignment type structure. It wasn't just an email that you could ignore or just not read. It was
okay. So the email comes through to their personal email, their school email
everybody
address.
Has a device. Everybody's got an iPad.
Right. So and then they're required / encouraged / whatever to take the survey in the classroom
it's
with
pretty
on
much
their Chromebooks.
Class time. It was
time.
45 minutes to do this survey. I mean, I don't even want to do a 5-minute survey for anything.
Right.
45 minutes for these kids to sit down. And so the teachers were supposed to have a script to read to the students and actually inform these kids that even if I didn't opt my child out, that they could have opted themselves out. And that didn't even get said to the kids.
But there's pressure there too.
Oh,
it's like
for sure.
You're 13, 12,
yeah.
and I mean we all remember being that age. It's like, oh well, I'm gonna raise my hand and say no and be brave. It's like, no, you're not. Like that's not what 12-year-olds do.
And also, if you raise your kids to be obedient and compliant to authority, and a teacher puts something in front of you and says you're going to take this survey, most kids are. That's what the situation was with my son. He realized that he shouldn't, so he took screenshots as he was taking the survey, so he could bring it home and show it to me.
All right, he's going somewhere
because he knew that this is something that he was not supposed to be taking, but the teacher made it clear that everybody was going to take the survey.
Okay, so pressure right there, right? Okay,
but he just didn't know that he had the option to get up and walk out, which I made clear to him after the fact that you have the option to get up and walk out.
That's not on him. It's on the.
But the school committee put it on the kids. Because I brought that up to one of the school committee members, the fact that my son, and she goes, well, why did he take it then?
So this ties back into what you said at the meeting from the clip I played earlier, right? This is pressure. It's an agenda. It's being pushed. This is not by accident. This is not lovey-feely, and we're all just one people, and we want people to be nice to each other. This is nonsense. They're pushing this, right?
And you asked about the beginnings of it. So when Adrian was answering the question how the survey started, but this is not the first conversation. Adrian and I had just met this year because of this. But it turns out that there were a number of people like myself and Adrian that were fighting this battle for years. I mentioned my wife and I have 9 kids. Yeah. So I have 3 that are now in college. I have 2 that are in high school, 2 that are in middle school, and 3 in elementary school. But since the older ones were around, this has been an argument with the school, and I didn't realize that everybody else was having the same argument. But it's been a constant refrain that you go up to the school, and we had said to them on a number of occasions, either you stop this stuff or we're going to start. And once this group starts, we're not going to let it go, and that's where we're at now. But this survey thing, the part I didn't have any intention of speaking when I went to that school committee meeting. I just wanted to hear what they had to say. But that first meeting, I kept hearing them say this was an oversight, this slipped through the cracks. Nobody was aware of it. The head of the school committee, she mentioned on, I think, 3 occasions, I can assure you nobody was aware of these questions. Nobody saw them. And that's when I get up at the first meeting and said, we sat in the conference room right next door last year.
That doesn't sound right.
It wasn't right because I said to the superintendent and the assistant superintendent, we had this discussion. Like, we had the discussion. You were in the room. We were sitting in a conference room right next door and we discussed this. And we talked about it. Now you're saying it was an oversight. And that's why I spoke in the second meeting, which was the clip you just showed, was, they're just hiding under their desks, hoping this thing blows over and goes away.
I could say it's not going to go away. So I'm going to look into the camera right now and say, if you're a gubernatorial candidate right now, you need to pick up this issue because this what needs to be shifted. I'll tell you this right now, policy shift from the state, because they'll do what they're told when it comes from the state. A policy shift should be, you don't have to opt out. It's opt in if you want to take this survey. That's it, full stop. because none of this belongs in the classroom. And it especially doesn't belong in the classroom pushed from people with severe ideological bias
Sure.
that have, in my opinion, malicious intent for a lot of this.
That was one of the recommendations that came back from this, what would you call it?
The meeting?
Well,
Well, they agreed that they weren't going to have any more surveys
until we
they came up with a policy. And then technically they didn't even follow their own policy about how to make new policies, but that's a whole other thing. But so so now we're in a split because 2 of the school committee members say opt-in only, 3 of them say opt-out only.
And their argument is that if you do an opt-in, then who's going to opt in? Well, that's the point.
Yeah, their wording was, we're concerned because then we'd have to send multiple reminders to get people to opt in. And I'm like, don't you see the humor in that?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I remember there was a case, some other, some similar type of issue in a school district somewhere else in the country, and opt-out was given, and basically everybody opted out, right, to the point where why bother doing it, but they still wanted to get it done because they really want to get it done, and they want to push this stuff forward. So I think for next year's election, and this is a political show, and make no bones about it, but this is how we move things, right? This is how we change things. Okay, elections. School committee elections are coming up, local elections in 2025. I'll mention this, Max Page, who's the villain in Massachusetts, in my opinion right now, head of the Massachusetts Teachers Association, is putting up local school candidates, right, for all across the state, and it's happening all across the country. They're putting up their own candidates for local school boards. So be very aware, Massachusetts, of who's running for school committee in your district, because it's going to come up and it's not going to stop. Circling back to the survey, sorry. We're going to jump around. This is a podcast, free-flowing conversation here, which I think is a better format anyway. When they got the survey, what did your kids feel, tell you? What happened after that?
well, my son just said that the questions were really weird. I mean, my son's in the 8th grade, so he's a little bit older. But, I mean, when you look at these questions, I mean, they're asking kids about their gender identity. They're asking them, I mean, explicit questions about what kind of sexual interactions they've had.
Oh, I'm sorry. Played a little. Was that trying to cue up the survey itself. Go ahead.
So, I mean, I think it was really confusing for kids because some of the kids, from what we heard from parents, were asking their friends, like, what does this even mean? Because, I mean, it was questions asking them about anal sex and oral sex and sex toys. I mean, that's just like, and when I was talking to someone about these questions, it's like you're now normalizing something that a child that age shouldn't know about. They shouldn't.
Correct.
Middle schoolers shouldn't know about sex toys. There's no reason for them to know about that. So, it's just exposing them to content and normalizing things that shouldn't be normal for that age. Yep. It's just terrible. So, yeah, my kid thought it was weird because he's a kid. Like, he doesn't even understand the gravity of what they're putting in front of him.
Well, this is when we fight this in political terms, I think a lot of the left will come at, Democrats and the left will come at and say, what, you don't want kids to learn about in health class? It's like, this is 5 miles beyond, intercourse creates babies or whatever, and even if you wanted to get into STD transmission or something like that, this is like from when I was in high school, this is leaps and bounds beyond that. And people need to be really aware of this. I'm going to cue this up. All right, let me just do a quick little plug here because I'm going to put this up. Please go to the Mass GOP QR code on the screen to help donate, because I want to get a TV into this studio and mount it so my guests can see what the audience can see. I'm going to put up the questions here. Let me clear that and do this. All right. Okay. Text of the question. Gender identity definitions. Which of the following terms, I'm just going to read through some of the questions that were on here, okay? Which of the following terms best describes your current gender identity? Again, going to 11, 12, and 13-year-olds. And some of the possible responses: cisgender, girl or woman; cisgender, boy or man; transgender, girl or woman; transgender, boy or man; non-binary, or genderqueer. That's my favorite. Questioning, I don't know what this question means. I'd prefer not to answer, right? So they give them some for the survey for the purposes. Okay. They want that
after you've read all those other.
Yeah. So they
it's not even boy or girl. It has to be cisgendered. Like they wouldn't even necessarily know which one they were.
Well, there's look. You could do deep dives into all of this. We're gonna go maybe an hour, so when we have lives, there is an ocean of debate and academic study debunking it, getting into why it's called cisgender. It's otherizing normality, what we consider normality, male and female, biological truths. All of that stuff is being turned on its head for this insanity, and it's going to be forced compliance of you must say he or she or they or them, and utterly upending all of the stuff that has been, put civilization on track for centuries. So, but let's continue here because it will get better. I don't know, worse. Which of the following terms best describes your current gender identity? We did that. Which of the following best describes your sexual orientation? Lesbian or gay, straight or heterosexual, asexual, bisexual, pansexual, queer. Again, there's more questioning. I don't know what these questions mean. I prefer not to answer. Keep going here. Let's talk. During the past 12 months, how many times did someone you were dating or going out with try to control you or emotionally hurt you? 11, 12, and 13-year-olds are getting this. During the past 12 months, how many times did someone you were dating or going out with physically hurt you? I mean, so these questions, some of them could be, I guess, valuable, but they're all lumped into a lot of this. And I think what happens is like the question of is somebody hurting you is put in with this survey about are you genderqueer?
Right.
And and then you conflate the two, and then when you call them out on the survey, they say, well, you don't want people to know if they're hurting you, and then they throw it back on you. Those, I think, there's some, again, nefarious and malicious intent behind
100%.
a lot of this.
Well, my favorite was when they asked if you were suicidal, if you've ever considered killing yourself, and then it was like, how often do you eat vegetables? And it was like, how do you just sprinkle this stuff in? Like, it had no rhyme or reason to it. And it's just like, yeah, some of those questions are valid. But, if you're going to read some of the ones about bullying, it's like, well, how does a child define bullying? Because a lot of people, like someone was mean to me, they bullied me. Well, is that really bullying? Or someone said something that hurt your feelings, so you were bullied. Right. So it's like you kind of get this confusion into kids' heads. And then if the child says, well, I identify as queer and someone bullied me, then they bullied me because I'm queer. And so now there's hate in the school. And so that's where I really felt like it was going, because now they have all this data, but do you really have information that's useful? And it's like you can twist information.
Some of the questions are pretty, it just says, do you feel safe in your school environment, or do you feel welcome and affirmed in your school environment? So I was saying to the person that was in charge of that survey, I'd asked her, I said, well, let's just say that I'm interpreting the answers and you're interpreting the answers. So my son walks into the school and every door has the LGBTQ safe zone sign on it, and there's rainbow flags everywhere, transgender flags everywhere. It's a constant refrain, morning announcements. So if he says, no, I don't feel comfortable in the school, if I'm the person that's taking that survey and I'm going to interpret, I'm going to say, well, we got to get this garbage out of the schools. We got to remove it because it's making kids uncomfortable. What they do is they look at that and say, well, we need to double down and we need to have more transgender flags and more. When I posed that to her and just said, that's a very generic question. Do you feel welcome and affirmed in your school? Two kids are going to say no for very, very, very different reasons. So what do you glean from this? And she had to admit that was true, but yet they're not going to change the survey. So who's interpreting the answers?
Right. Well,
we know the answer.
We know who's interpreting it. And why they're interpreting it the way they're interpreting it. Right. So again, to get political for a second, what we need to do as Republicans is start getting opt-in, no more opt-out. Everything is opt-in. If you want to even do it, I mean, it should be removed fully.
The end game should be this is over.
Yeah. And as parents, we have to stay firm on this, because I got to tell you, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. Even though they're changing the type of stuff in Europe right now, a lot of they're starting to roll back a lot of this gender identity insanity, and people are hanging on around in the States, because there is so much money that is floating around for, like you said, the grants. And we won't get into the medical interventions or anything aspect of that, but since Obamacare, that has exploded. There's a reason why for, I don't know, 1,000 years, this stuff really, didn't come up, but all of a sudden in the past 10 to 15, it's exploded.
Right.
And it's only exploded in Western civilized countries. This is not by accident. This is not a coincidence. So I'll applaud you both again. I think it's important that parents get involved. But how do you get involved? Well, know who your school committee is. Go to the school committee meetings. Vote for people who, the next election, who support normalcy and just getting back to what we know as normal education. I'll point out one more thing. The idea that, so is a cost-benefit analysis, right? While they're taking 45-minute surveys, and this is just one small chunk of their day, because this is repeated over and over again throughout the day, they're not learning English.
This is part of the indoctrination hour. So
Yeah.
in the middle school, they have building block, which they didn't have before. So now they have building block, which is like 45 minutes.
That sounds nice.
To do nothing. But this is where they put in that social emotional learning. This is where they go, oh, what's the theme for this month? Oh, it's, Black History Month. We're going to talk about how racist our country is. Oh, it's Women's History Month. We're going to talk about trans women. Like, this is what they do. And so it's like, it's very sneaky. So like they had the time for this because they're already taking time away from teaching our kids to indoctrinate them. Like, I've seen slideshows that they have these kids, like for Pride Month last year, they all take them into the cafeteria and they give them breakfast, right?
Yeah.
And then they watch this slideshow about, the whole Pride movement. And it's like, this isn't an opt-in. This isn't even anything they tell you about.
Yeah.
So they're already kind of, I'm sorry, they're like kidnapping our kids and trying to just change the way they see the world.
No, that's a fair assessment.
And even regular classes, there's a computer science teacher at the middle school that she cannot utter a sentence without it having been intertwined with her LGBTQ agenda.
Yeah. Well,
Computers they're programmed with ones and zeros, I think. I don't know how it works.
Well, the problem
nothing to do with transgenderism.
Right. The problem we have as a society is like, I don't know that this is, it's becoming more widespread, but still not, it's not 50% of the population, but it is concentrated in very specific areas, academia. So if you go to school, if you're a college student, you go to school to become a teacher. This is, you struggle this, doesn't matter the school. And I mean this, it doesn't matter the school because the graduates from the colleges are programmed with this stuff coming out of it. Maybe they're free thinkers occasionally, but a lot of them are not. Or they're just, to them, this is the new normal where all this stuff is being pushed. So then they get a job in a local school district, and this is just automatic. This is what we do. This is part of education. And it becomes a real problem.
You mentioned you went to UMass. I have a daughter I went to BC. I have a daughter's at BC, another one at UMass, another one at Southern New Hampshire. But the one that's at UMass, she's a track athlete. And we went out for a recruiting trip, and we're walking, touring the campus trying to recruit my daughter. And we walked through the queer disabled talk space. There's a designated area.
They didn't kick you out?
I looked at it, so I stopped and I took my phone out and took a picture of it. And the coach, he knew where I stood, but he just shook it. He's like, "I'm sorry, Mr. Hanneman, but it's on every campus." At this point, I'm like, "Can you explain what a queer disabled talk space is?"
Was he able to? Because
he just kind of chuckled. He's like, "We're on a college campus," and then we just moved on. But I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me.
So they're disabled.
I guess
they're queer. They have to. I mean, those are two qualifiers. But the talk space part, I'm actually more curious. Like, they're not allowed to talk in other spaces. They need this. They need that specific space.
I'm not going to say anything right now because nothing nice is going to come out of my mouth.
It's in a student union building, a designated area for the queer disabled.
As serious as this show might be, sometimes we'll keep it light, but also this is we'll keep it PG. We can get into expletives when I stop.
But the other thing too, like with the teachers, they're getting that when they are going to college, and then the teachers' unions are pushing stuff on them. Absolutely, they go to their conferences. I've seen what they're being pushed on at the conferences. It's all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then the school gets grants and they go to these workshops and things like that, and it's all implicit bias. It's all how to be more inclusive and how to create welcoming environments and how to address the mental health issues of your students. And they're not focused on teaching them to be better teachers. That's not the goal anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Well,
Our teachers union of Burlington is particularly egregious. The guy that runs the teachers union,
He must be best friends with that guy from the state.
It's this whole agenda. And the thing that's crazy too is that no matter what the subject matter is, they're framed as the victim of everything. So he's organizing people to go down and protest Donald Trump down in D.C., but yet we're hateful bigots because we want to go to a school committee meeting and have our opinions heard. So he'll put something on a post that says, this is democracy in action. This is what it's all about. We need to go down and protest this tyrant. And so he's bragging about how they need to get all the teachers in Massachusetts together to organize to protest the president. But yet if we show up at a school committee meeting, that's hateful.
Right.
Yeah, if we say we don't want our kids exposed to sexual stuff, we're bad parents.
Yeah. So let me do this. Sorry, I hit the wrong button here. There's good news and bad news, right? So the bad news is this isn't going to end anytime soon. But the good news is their tactics are wearing thin, and a lot more and more parents are slowly becoming aware and more active and engaged in what will stop it, right? So I think culturally, maybe I'll ask you guys this. I think the idea that, we're victims, what you just said, the patriarchy and oppression, and we live in a fascist state, which is all nonsense anyway. Those tired lines are becoming tired to everybody, and everybody has that crazy maybe friend from high school or relative who just constantly posts 98% memes on Facebook or whatever, and you just roll your eyes and you're tired of hearing it. That stuff's wearing thin.
I think so.
I think people are over it from a cultural perspective. And given that, now it's like we got to kind of like push back the tide a little bit, and we need normal people to run for school committee and normal people to say no to the teachers unions. And I think, I could be wrong about this, I'll check in further episodes. Next year, the Massachusetts Teachers Union, again, Max Page, he's the villain in Massachusetts, you should be aware of that, is trying to push forward a law, a ballot initiative that says teachers are allowed to go on strike. Now, it's illegal currently for Massachusetts teachers to go on strike during the school year or at all, right? They can't do it because what disrupts it disrupts the whole educational process. Happened in Newton, happened in Woburn.
Yeah.
They want to do it everywhere because they want to control every aspect of it, so parents are left out in the cold and they can tell you to go pound sand. So this needs to be stopped. This guy needs to be stopped in the sense that we need to, make sure that up and down the ballot, everybody who's involved in this pushes back against this concerted effort. And it starts with people becoming aware. It doesn't here, by the way, if you're at home, it doesn't take that much effort to do it. You need maybe, I'll get a few signatures on some ballot papers. You go down to the supermarket, maybe the transfer station, you get those, you get on the ballot, and you keep fighting. Maybe you don't win all the seats, but you win a few, and then the next go around, you win a few more. And you got to chunk this, just claw back the power that these people want to claim. I'll share a story maybe in a little bit, but how did your kids, you said your son just thought it was weird. What were the after effects in terms of how did he feel? Did you talk to him about it? What did he say? What was the reaction or the conversation like on a personal level, if you don't mind getting into that?
Yeah, no, it just opened us up to have conversations about things that I didn't think he really was ready to have conversations about.
Yeah.
My son is like he's not like this super exposed to a bunch of different stuff doing he plays basketball. He goes outside and he plays, and he doesn't like care about this kind of adult kind of stuff. So it's like now I have to kind of be cognizant of the fact that he is aware of what these things are when he shouldn't have been. So specifically for my son, I had concern, but I'm more concerned about those 11-year-olds. These 6th graders who are so, I volunteer with 6th graders. I teach religious ed. They're like babies. They are so different from an 8th grader.
Yeah.
So it's like, when I was in 6th grade, I was still playing with Barbie dolls. I believed in Santa Claus, like legit. Believed in Santa Claus
the
in
6th grade. Is that barrier.
Yeah.
Where you
so
start
it's just so heinous that they had no qualms about putting this in front of little kids. It's just so, it fires me up.
What
The part that we talked about opt out, opt in, and one of the parents made a pretty good point as well, is that so even if your kid was